You know what's worse than losing your home? Finding out your own brother celebrated stealing it while telling everyone you had abandoned it. When he smiled and said, "It's legally mine now," he thought he had won. He had no idea he had just signed away his own future over a protected trust worth nearly $900,000. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and this is the story of how the person I trusted most became the reason our family fell apart. 8 years earlier, life had forced me to leave my hometown. My husband, Daniel, had suffered a severe spinal injury after a construction accident. He needed constant treatment, surgeries, and physical therapy in another state. We sold almost everything we owned just to keep going. The only thing I refused to sell was my grandmother's old Victorian house. It wasn't just a building. It was every Christmas morning, every birthday, every memory of the woman who practically raised me after my parents died. Before Grandma Helen passed away, she held my hand in her hospital room. "Sarah, promise me something." "I promise. No matter what happens, don't ever rush to sell that house." I smiled through my tears. "I never will." She squeezed my hand. "Good. One day you'll understand why." At the time, I thought she was speaking emotionally. I didn't realize she was speaking legally. Because Daniel's medical care consumed my life, I rarely returned home. The property taxes were automatically paid. The utilities remained connected. A local caretaker mowed the lawn every month. The house looked quiet. But it was never abandoned. My older brother Jason stayed in town. At first, he sounded supportive. "Don't worry, sis. I'll keep an eye on everything." I thanked him. Looking back, those words should have terrified me. Years passed. Daniel fought harder than anyone I'd ever known. But cancer, which doctors discovered during one of his treatments, eventually took him from me. I buried my husband, packed my remaining belongings, and drove back home to rebuild my life. Nothing prepared me for what I saw. The familiar white Victorian house now had black shutters, a different mailbox, a new family unloading furniture. I slammed on my brakes. No. I walked toward the porch in complete disbelief. A middle-aged man greeted me politely. "Can I help you?" I stared at him. "This house belongs to me." His smile faded instantly. "I'm sorry, we bought this house 6 months ago." I felt every ounce of blood leave my body. "Bought it, from who?" He answered without hesitation. "Jason Mitchell. My own brother." I called him immediately. He answered cheerfully. "So, you finally came back. What did you do? What needed to be done?" "You sold my house. You disappeared. I was taking care of my dying husband. You left the place empty for years. It wasn't yours." He laughed. "It looked abandoned. It was legally mine." "No." His voice became cold. "It was abandoned property. I handled it." I hung up before I exploded. That evening I searched through every document I still had. Nothing made sense. How could he legally transfer ownership? The next morning I visited Grandma's longtime attorney, Richard Lawson. He looked shocked to see me. I'd been expecting this day. I placed the deed on his desk. "My brother sold my house." He slowly adjusted his glasses. "No, Sarah. He did." Mr. Lawson looked almost amused. "No, he thinks he did." I frowned. "What does that even mean?" Without saying another word, he unlocked an old filing cabinet. He removed a thick folder covered in dust. Across the front were 4 words. "The Helen Mitchell Family Trust." I had never seen it before. Mr. Lawson explained everything. 2 years before Grandma died, she transferred the property into an irrevocable trust. She had one reason. Jason. Apparently, years before I was born, Jason had secretly forged Grandpa's signature on a bank loan. Grandma discovered it. She forgave him publicly. But privately she never trusted him with property again. The trust prevented any single family member from selling the house. Not Jason. Not even me. Only the appointed trustee could approve any transfer. Jason had forged signatures, filed fake paperwork, and tricked an inexperienced title company into processing the sale. Legally, the sale shouldn't have happened. I sat there speechless. Then came the first twist. The house itself wasn't worth $900,000. The trust was. Grandma had quietly invested rental income from farmland our family owned decades ago. Every dividend, every lease payment, every investment return flowed into the same trust that held the house. The property was only the visible part. The trust controlled assets totaling nearly $900,000. Grandma hadn't hidden wealth. She had hidden protection. Jason never knew. He believed he had stolen one old house. Instead, he had interfered with nearly $1 million in protected assets. 3 weeks later, investigators contacted me. What they uncovered shocked everyone. Jason hadn't acted alone. A real estate investor had approached him after noticing the historic neighborhood's rising prices. "You said nobody cared about the place," detectives told me. Jason convinced everyone I had abandoned the property forever. Neighbors even believed it. But one elderly woman changed everything. Mrs. Alvarez, who lived across the street, had saved years of security camera recordings because packages kept disappearing from her porch. Those cameras captured Jason entering my house repeatedly, changing locks, removing family photographs, taking old documents, preparing the property for sale. Frame by frame, his lies collapsed. Then came the second twist. The buyers were innocent. When they learned everything, they were devastated. Instead of fighting me, they apologized. "We would have never bought this house if we'd known." Their title insurance protected them financially. For the first time since Daniel died, I cried because strangers showed me more kindness than my own brother ever had. Jason wasn't so fortunate. Investigators froze his bank accounts. Most of the sale money had already vanished. Luxury vacations, casino trips, a brand new sports car, expensive watches. He hadn't invested $1. He had celebrated. Then came the courtroom. Jason avoided looking at me. His lawyer argued that the property appeared abandoned. The judge interrupted immediately. "People don't lose ownership because tragedy kept them away." Silence filled the courtroom. The prosecutor displayed hospital records, medical bills, travel records. Everything proving I had spent 8 years caring for my husband. Then the prosecutor said something I'll never forget. While his sister was sleeping beside hospital beds, the defendant was planning how to steal hers. Jason's shoulders dropped. He knew it was over. The judge ordered criminal penalties, restitution, and additional civil damages. His business collapsed within weeks. Friends disappeared. His wife filed for divorce. Even relatives who once defended him refused to answer his calls. Months later, I returned to Grandma's house after every legal issue had finally been resolved. The room smelled exactly like old wood and fresh rain. Mr. Lawson handed me one last envelope. Grandma had written it years before. It said, "Sarah, if you're reading this, someone has probably confused your absence with surrender." I stopped breathing. She continued, "Kind people often leave to care for others. Greedy people mistake sacrifice for weakness." Tears blurred every word. I couldn't protect you forever. But I could make sure honesty had more patience than greed. She had. Jason lost everything because he couldn't wait. Grandma won because she planned decades ahead. Today, the house still stands. But it no longer belongs only to me. I transformed it into a temporary home for families who travel long distances to care for loved ones in nearby hospitals. Every bedroom reminds me of Daniel. Every meal shared around Grandma's dining table reminds me why she created that trust. It was never about making me rich. It was about making sure one selfish person could never destroy generations of love. My brother thought he had sold an abandoned house. What he really sold was the last chance anyone would ever trust him again.